Okay, we're live. What's up, guys? John Sintez here. Special Cutternation podcast with Steven Cukiernik. But first, please go rate, review, and subscribe the podcast. Run over there, smash the like button on YouTube. We're also on Twitch now. We've got shirts, we've got hats. Hit our whole online store. We've been doing this podcast. This is 81. We're excited. We're pushing and trying to get to 100. It's really, we've been knocking them out. We got a good streak going. So. Steven, thanks for coming on. Will you do me a favor? You're with F5 Sports, PitchLogic. Everybody knows that I'm a fan. I'm excited. I got the ball right here. I keep the box here because I'm one of those guys that keeps boxes, but
Nice,
it's such a clean design, I've got a degree in advertising marketing, so a little bit of Photoshop design, my eyeball sees stuff. So tell everybody who you are to F5 and what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Steven Cukiernik. I'm one of the founders of F5 Sports, one of the engineers. So me and David Rankin, who I think you've kind of had on before, created the product. We started the company. We do most of the engineering on continued improvement of the product and everything like that. And so we really have just been pushing to keep making this thing better and get it to where it is now. And that's kind of what I do every day.
Awesome. So your job responsibilities for the ball, you said engineer. What do you feel like is the most important part of the tech of the ball?
Well, so I mean, I'll give you kind of two pieces to that. One is, it's got to be accurate. It's got to be, it's got to work for people, right? So whatever it does, it's got to do it well. And so the way we do that is try to make it really easy to use. You get it out of the box, it connects easily to your phone, and then you basically just start throwing and you're getting good data that you can use. But the other piece to that is always looking at what it is that people need, what it is that can actually drive them to get better, what feedback we can give people that's useful to them, not just, well, these are the numbers everybody's using, but we're always looking at what is it that's missing? What is it that is kind of the next piece that will enable people to take their pitching to the next level?
Okay. You guys have a very difficult task of durability. And it's one of the common questions that I get from a lot of athletes that are asking about the ball and how does it, because baseball's scuff, right? And so especially in this time where you're throwing, we've recommended guys put towels down underneath their nets, especially if it's on like concrete. So like it hits the net and then it softens the blow a little bit. It'll make your leather last longer. We at the gym, we actually have a turf that we have in an area that when it hits our target and it rolls down, it just saves the ball, all of our balls a lot longer. We're always trying to help preserve the leather so the bases last as long as nobody likes to throw bad baseballs. So that being said, you guys offer a 90-day manufacturer's warranty. How does that work, and what does that include?
Yeah, so really, we test a lot and engineered a lot for durability in the ball. The electronics are really well protected inside that ball so that it's, you can throw it into, you can miss your target, hit the wall, hit, a steel beam, whatever it is, and your ball's still going to work. But if for some reason there was an issue, you can send it back within 90 days. That's really to get people confident with it. It's sort of a leap of faith to believe that you're going to throw a piece of electronics at 80, 90, 100 miles an hour and have it still work after. You certainly can't do that with your iPhone. So it really gives people that 90 days to build that confidence and see that this thing really is durable. It really can be used like a baseball. That other piece of the leather, it is real leather. We want it to feel like a real baseball, and obviously that's not an indestructible material. But we do have the leather replacement program that we have, so you can send the ball back to us. We actually swap it out with a refurbished ball so that you don't have to spend the entire cost of buying a brand new PitchLogic just to get fresh leather on it.
Yeah, that's exciting. I didn't know it was refurbished. That's cool because it definitely speeds up the process. Because when it sounds like re-leather, right? You think about, well, they got to take the leather off. It's going to take them a couple days maybe to get it back. But I feel like that helps the efficiency of the process for somebody to get something back. Basically, you want a functioning ball again, right? So
exactly.
let's be conservative. Let's say you use this ball and once a year you trade it in. It's $50 is a rather pretty good move if you're really thinking about like
Right.
Maximizing the potential of what you're doing there. So guys, if you feel like it's getting too scuffed up and you want to get a new one, $50 isn't that bad to basically get a fresh ball that's going to do what you want to do. So applaud you guys to that. That's exciting for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of the first questions we get from everybody. Am I going to just beat this thing up, and is it going to be worthless in a little while? And so, the electronics are near indestructible. We don't advise hitting it with a bat, but just about anything other than that. And then you can get fresh leather, and like you said, it's quick turnaround. So we just ship you one out, and you ship yours back.
Okay, so let's move on to a little bit more technical of an aspect of the ball. So we had David on before, and he spoke of, I'm going to screw this up, but something like 60,000 more smarter brains than myself is inside this baseball or something of it. Could you go over the tech inside of this ball, especially with I'm interested in the connectivity in it and how it works.
Sure.
Because I'm confused mentally, just because my brain doesn't get it, how I can throw something away from a Bluetooth source and then it will track it and then bring the data back to me. So that's a cool feature that I don't think a lot of people understand about how ranges work with Bluetooth and stuff like that. So could you help us out with that?
Sure, absolutely. To get kind of into the details of it. So we all kind of had experience with Bluetooth in the early days. You have your headset, and if you walk about 5 feet away from your phone, and the connection drops, and you've lost your call or whatever. But today, Bluetooth actually comes in 2 different flavors. There's Bluetooth Classic, which is that technology, and it has improved. And then there's something called Bluetooth Low Energy, or BLE, and that's what we use in PitchLogic. So BLE is actually almost completely separate in terms of the actual technology it works on. From classic Bluetooth, and it enables things like you're able to just tap the ball to your phone to connect. You don't have to go into your menu and go through a whole pairing process, which makes it super easy if you want to swap between multiple balls. If you're sharing a ball between multiple users and you want to take it off of one phone and put it on another, it makes all of that super seamless. But it also has a lot of features to boost range, boost reliability. So we actually test every ball that goes out to a 300-foot range. That range is a little bit variable depending on your environment, depending on what phone you're using, even how you're holding it. Like if you put your phone on the ground, that actually cuts the range down on your phone's end quite a bit. But that technology really just enables a lot more reliability, a lot more range than the old versions of Bluetooth had.
Yeah, that 300 feet's aggressive, right? That's
yeah.
You're getting. That's exciting because I understand the potential of what that means also. So, I have also seen some technology evolution inside the Bluetooth, like you said, with the BLE, and it makes me think about the future and how the technology is advancing, right? I'm thinking of just some really cool ideas that I know that are probably possible.
Yeah,
I'm sure you guys have thought of, but who knows? Maybe multiple balls on one device. Like I don't know, but it's exciting to see like how this is affecting the consumer at a very affordable range, where really anybody can get this spin data. I mean, we do remote training with it, and I had a dad ask me the other day why his 10-year-old needed the ball. And I explained to him, look, your son puts 3 fingers on the baseball and he cuts it, and he doesn't know. And he doesn't throw hard enough yet for it to actually affect the curvature of the ball yet, because it's not spinning enough. But if we can actually teach him to spin it better earlier in his baseball career, his throwing experience is going to be significantly different than what anybody else has had, right?
Absolutely,
Now he's playing a video game. Now he understands like, oh, when I throw like this, not only does it go faster, it spins better. And when it spins better, it stays straighter and I'm more accurate, right? So I'm seeing with our young guys that are using it, we're seeing massive increases in general performance, fixing mechanical alignment issues of their body with this ball as a sensor, basically explaining that, dude, your wrist is just turned too hard when you're throwing the ball. But you've always done it that way. You didn't know that was bad, And so Unfortunately, with throwing, you can't learn that that is really bad until you get to high speeds. Otherwise, like I said, the ball
Right.
just doesn't have the same action. So, could you speak about that? I know I
Yeah,
threw.
absolutely. I mean, one of the things, one of the ideas that really David brought to the table on this, and that was drawing. I mean, both of us kind of understand it from sort of an engineering perspective. Feedback is a big thing in engineering. When you're getting a machine to perform correctly, when you're getting some process, um, you always have some kind of sensor. It's going to relay what's going on, and then it's going to make adjustments to get it where it needs to be. But David also brought that from experience in sports. He had done other sports related products and seen how that could enhance learning, enhance progress. So people start out with this, and most people ask, how do I read this? What do I do with it? It's a little unfamiliar, but what you really find is if you just start to get a sense of direction, I want to move the arrow from here to here. Your body's great at learning. It's great at making adjustments, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. But if you can't see what your goal is and where you're going, you really have no way of doing that. So like you said, at a higher level, you start to see the effects of the spin more. You start to notice how the ball is curving and make adjustments based off of that. But at that young age, if you're getting it over the plate, that's kind of really all you can look for. But this kind of opens it up to really see if you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You can build those fundamentals at an early age, and that's going to give you a lot more success in the near term, but in the long term as well.
Yeah, like I said, it's so much fun to teach these simple concepts of data to these parents too. Like we're seeing a lot of. I'm going to be. I don't. It's going to be hard for me to not be involved in my kids' baseball experience, right? Like I'm going to do. I see it all the time with the dads that just go too far. And I understand how I like to do it. And I just got to remember that like I didn't like anybody helping me, and I just wanted to do everything as much as I could without asking for help. And I feel like that just really allows a person who wants to get better at something on their own and think about it, in their own way. And this ball really does that. It brings me to a question that David said. Now, you taught yourself how to throw a 100 spin efficiency curveball, which is very hard to do. Why don't you take me through that process? Before that, tell me your baseball history, right? Tell me what experience level you have, and then let's go through that process on how you did that.
Yeah, so my experience in baseball really is about a year of Little League, being at the end of the batting order and out in the outfield somewhere, because I really did not have a natural aptitude for it at a young age, and I think part of it too was we all have different learning styles, and kind of the kids that were sort of natural athletes, there were certain things that worked for them, but just didn't really make sense to me. But so I kind of was approaching it really fresh, when we started doing this. I have a great appreciation for people who are gifted at sports. I love sports. I love watching sports, but I've never been, a star athlete. But getting into this product, we had to test it. We really wanted to understand what the experience was going to be like. We do have people on our team who have a baseball background who are helping kind of us learn about that, helping with the input on that end. But we want to get as deep into it as we can ourselves. So I started teaching myself how to pitch as much as I could. Started with a fastball, kind of gone through, tried to learn as many different types of pitches as I can. And having this there where you can see your spin efficiency, you can see, exactly what the spin is on the ball, you can play with the grip, you can see exactly what's going on. With both fastball and curveball, I was able to get, to really high spin efficiencies, kind of learning that way to begin with. When it wasn't going the way I wanted to, being able to just kind of go right to the problem and figure out how to do it a little bit differently. So it's a lot of fun. I get in here and I want to test something in the product, want to test whether it's a new feature or something we're working on in the code. And I'm like, okay, I need to throw 4 or 5 pitches, and I don't want to stop. I'm like, well, let me improve on that a little bit. It starts to become exciting to just work on the pitching itself.
Yeah. Do you remember your numbers? Do you remember how fast it was?
So when we first started, probably in the 30s. I mean, I haven't quite broken 60 yet. I'm not pushing the speed, but I've come a long way still.
That's it. Throwing's fun, right? Like that's the thing I try to tell a lot of people. There's an argument that like throwing's unnatural, and I used to think about that, and then I immediately heard an argument about like how cavemen were throwing, and I go, well, if cavemen were throwing, how is throwing unnatural when it's just something we've did for for the longest amount of time? So it's it obviously it's detrimental if you're not doing something correctly and it hurts, but the fact that you're able to come up with a skill set and teach yourself how to do that, actually make it curve and do that. A lot of people shy away from curveballs or breaking balls because they think they're bad for the elbow, which, there's evidence that there is. And we're not saying that it's not, detrimental, but I always lean on the fact that when there's no adults around, like I did the same thing that every kid does now. You threw way too many curveballs, you threw changeups, you threw sliders, you threw, everything, because that was like, you're just trying to do it. So, the education side of it and what this ball can do for anybody is very, very impressive. We actually did a fun little experiment where we used one ball, played catch between two people, and got our spin metrics back and forth because we came set back and forth. Under one account. One account had the phone in between us, and we were both able to get our flat ground data of us throwing back and forth, and then emailed the report to us. So that was really cool. So that brings me to another question. The report that you get right there, what was the inspiration in that? I love the idea of being able to just select a date range and get about it. Well, how did that come about? And is there any plans of what it's moving forward?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about both of those things. I think it came about just because, we would like to look at the data that way. We would throw the ball, we'd be testing, we'd want to see a big screen where we could look through what progress did I make, what was changing, what was working, what wasn't. And so, the app is really great for in the moment. You get that instant feedback. You can swipe back and forth. You can see the last pitch, see what changed between this one and that one. But then there's also a mode where you want to see, have I been making progress for the past week or for the past month, past year? Or if a problem develops, you can say, my curveball is just not working the way it was. Let me see what's changed. It was working great a couple months ago. Now something's a little bit off. Let me pull up my numbers from back then, see what's different now. And it really just opens up the world for people who get deeper into the analytics. They want to try playing with the numbers in different ways. They want to look at different things. It kind of just lets them have that freedom to do that kind of however they want to do. As far as kind of where that's going, it has grown in some ways already. We started out, you just had a list of your numbers. Now you can tag it with different players. You can tag it with ratings. You can tag it with pitch type. So now you've got, all those things that you can associate with the data. Going forward, we have some more ideas kind of around that as far as ways that you can tag the data to make it more useful, and also new ways to access it. Being able to send yourself that report is great, but we'll have some different ways that you can see that data without having to kind of manually go through it. That will add in the future.
Yeah, it's it does seem the spreadsheet seems like it's a lot of numbers and data, but I enjoy it, especially in tracking. Automatically tracking your throwing session is just, man, it just makes for so much more freedom where I don't have to, the data comes instantaneously. Speaking of that, what's the speed of data collection of the ball? I know, when we throw it with the radar guns and the other things that we measure with, that it's definitely the fastest, but I haven't heard a number or anything on average of what you guys get with.
Yeah, I think it's about 60 milliseconds. So that's 0.06 seconds from the time the ball hits the catcher's glove or hits the net to when you're going to see data on your phone. We think that's just really important. When you're throwing, you did something, how it felt, but that muscle memory, that feeling fades really quickly. So if you're going to use this to actually practice with in your bullpen session in the moment to feel what an adjustment feels like and see if it was successful, you want to be able to throw, and then once you look at your phone, the data's already there. You're not waiting for it. You're not in your head. You're still in the moment.
Yeah, it's so important that it comes in super fast, and you can keep the rhythm and the flow of your throwing session. That's very important in any pitcher's regimen, whether it's, some guys do take a long time in between pitches and some guys don't take a long time. So one of the things that I don't understand, especially as it's like a sensor, is how does it count 2,300 total spin, when it's flying 96 miles an hour down there and it knows what it's going on? Can you explain how that works?
Sure. Yeah. So the thing about PitchLogic it's really sophisticated in some ways, but in other ways it is a very simple concept, is that from the time you come set all the way through your pitching motion and then through the flight of the ball is simply just measuring its motion 1,000 times per second. And so every little bit of rotation, every little bit of acceleration or movement is being monitored during that entire process. So in some ways it's very direct. It's the spin rate looks at the entire flight of the ball. It rotates all the way through every step of the way. It's monitoring that, and then the spin rate basically comes directly out of that. And the other measurements similarly, it's really getting a complete picture of the motion of the ball, of its orientation, its position, its velocity at every step along the process, and then we just pick out the data that's useful in order to present the data that you actually get in the app.
So you said earlier, how does it count it all the way down there? Does it count each revolution, or is it doing a calculation? How does that work?
It essentially can see each revolution, but even more than that, it can see each fraction of a revolution. So at every moment in time, it can see if it went from here to here and then here to here and then all the way through until it makes a complete revolution and all the way down. And so we can see what that rate is. And for the spin rate in the time of a pitch, that's actually a pretty steady number. So from the time it leaves your hand to the time it gets to home plate, your velocity is going to change quite a bit. Somewhere around 10% is a good rule of thumb, but it varies depending on a number of things. But your spin rate is almost flat throughout that time. It's going to be like a 1% change in your spin rate from your release to the end. If you're doing something like a long toss, that change is more significant, but in 60 feet, it really doesn't change much. And we can actually see what it is all the way through.
Wow. So this ball can capture the velocity at the end range also?
Yeah, it can. I mean, that's not part of the data that we're presenting now, but it knows that whole path. And
that's interesting, because it just makes me, as a scientist, as someone who is curious, I wonder what different pitches end speed is. This is just not information that you normally get as a pitcher, but I don't know if there could be a answer there for someone maybe throwing like a slider or a cutter, if they knew what their end speed was. So that's interesting.
Sure.
But
yeah, and we're always looking at what data might be useful to pitchers as we talk to players, as we throw it ourselves, as we interact with people. We're always thinking ahead to what's something a little bit different we could present. How would it help a pitcher get better or make better decisions or whatever it is. And so we definitely have a kind of an idea looking to the future of what some of those things that we can do are that might be useful. And we've got a huge, rich amount of data that's in the ball to draw on to do those things.
Yeah, it's the bullet spin idea is something that's very, very useful to a lot of our athletes, where a lot of people cut the ball. Mm-hmm. You said it knows where it is in space. How does it know where it is?
Yeah, so there's a few sensors in the ball. The way they work together is kind of technical and also kind of part of the secret sauce, so to speak. So I won't quite get into all of that, but basically they're all working together to create a complete picture of where it is and how it's oriented. And we know exactly how the seams are oriented on the ball. So we know at every moment, which way the PitchLogic logo is facing, which way the Charge logo is facing, where the seams are, how that orientation is changing. It's along the lines of when you're sitting in a fast car and someone steps on the gas, you can feel that acceleration, right? The ball feels things in a similar way, but in a much more accurate way, and it can put that all together to get a really complete picture of what it's doing.
I love the way you said that. That makes total sense. Like being in the back of a car, or your crazy friends drifting around a corner.
Exactly.
You're being thrown into the side of the car. Exactly.
So this would make a great inspiration for a ride at the state fair or something if you really wanted to get.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Stephen, I don't want to eat up too much more of your time. This has been really great. One last thing, why don't you tell everybody, you guys, David said you guys are constantly trying to improve the product, whether it's, like you said earlier, upgrading the Bluetooth capabilities to what the latest and greatest is. Maybe you could speak on what the idea of the future holds for you guys, and what anything you can speak about.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we do have we have some really interesting things planned. Don't want to get into the specifics on that quite yet until we're ready to a little closer to releasing them. But what is really cool about the ball is that the hardware is really mature. We don't really have any deficits there that we've identified at this point. So everything that we do that's new is generally going to come through a firmware update. It's really easy. Your phone will just pop up and say, hey, there's new firmware available for your ball. That'll give it the ability to do new things, and then through app updates. So really everything that we have planned at this point is all in the ball that you already have or hopefully have soon, if you're somebody who doesn't have PitchLogic yet. But yeah, so you can get it now and grow with it, and we'll keep sending out updates. We'll keep adding new things.
Yeah, it's so exciting to have a tech company that feels like that they're on the consumer side about, the app updates and firmware updates mean a lot to the community, to the users, guys like us and the natural ball player that really understand, the capabilities of this ball and how in such small area you can really do a lot in your training as pitchers, just needing as little as 15 feet. I mean, I know pretty much everybody in the area has got 15. You could diagonal in the garage. I saw that one recently. Yeah. I loved it. Kids ripping balls into a net with his PitchLogic ball, and he's basically in the corner of his garage, and he's got all the room to be able to throw on the other side. So it's very cool to watch the evolution of it. Steve, I appreciate it. You're the best. You guys are awesome over there. Keep it up. If you guys ever need anything, let me know. I couldn't be more excited about the future and how things come.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been great having people who have really engaged with the product and love it and use it. And that's been one of the most fun things about this entire process is, I do get to talk to customers. I get to talk to baseball players and really seeing how it works for them and how they're able to interact with it. And people getting really excited about it. That's a big part of what drives us to keep making it better.
Totally. It's so, I can't speak on it enough. I've been telling everybody that, it tracks your throwing session. You don't have to do anything. You just gotta follow the rules. Make sure you come set. Do the half a second. We always tell everybody 2 seconds because we're baseball players and we rush, And so I'm like, it says half a second, but just do yourself a favor. Go for 2 seconds. You'll be fine, right? Learn that pace. Yeah. You got to do it on the mound anyway, right? So, I appreciate it again. If you guys anything, like I said, don't hesitate to ask. So, guys, one last thing, don't forget, you can use code Cutternation. You get a $25 rebate. These guys are doing everything they can to help everybody in this time and really in the future. So, Thanks again. You can pick one up at f5sports.net. And this guy, Steven, one of the founders and creators of one of the coolest piece of technology that I've seen. So it was really cool to meet you guys in Nashville. Like I said, I'm a big fan, and I can't wait to keep doing more stuff with you guys.
Yeah, thanks, John.